between Jonatan and Christoffer. We'll be playing finals. So Christoffer.
Oh, moves to 5, right?
Heading down to 5. This is a deck though. Both.
Depending on which deck you plays.
Artifact Prison really is a deck that needs to find its key pieces. And go off from there, you know? It needs to find its Chalice of the Void. It needs to find its ancient tombs.
Its petals, the petals.
Exactly, the lotus petal. You know, there's a lot of cards that both Prison and 8-cast play.
Okay, confirm 8-cast. Confirm 8-cast. Both Thought Monitor and Opal.
GTA 033 says Christoffer is playing 8-cast. So I believe that means they're playing they're playing 4 Blood Moons, 4 Blood Suns. So they're casting 8 separate versions of Blood Sun or Moon.
Yeah, that's our working theory.
Yeah, so
we've seen his whole deck before.
So yeah, 8-cast.
Or blue deck wins. That's how I like to call it.
Or red deck wins, depending on.
Yeah, no, that's what he's meaning, the full color. Because Jonatan plays both blue deck wins and red deck wins, as well as white deck wins and green deck wins.
Oh yeah.
It's just the best of all worlds, except the black one. Black deck doesn't win.
It's Omnath wins.
Yeah, Omnath wins all the games.
Yeah, turn 1
kind of won the last one actually.
So starting on 7 cards, casting a turn 1 ponder. That's a lot of cards.
That's a lot of advantage, let me tell you. We'll see what our 8-cast champion does. With Otavara.
8-cast is a deck that can really recoup a card disadvantage if it starts doing the right stuff.
He could play. No, he's 1 card short for Kappa. But in theory, he can play like Cap Kenya with a full hand.
Christoffer just got wastelanded
that's
off
harsh.
of an Otawara, which presumably was the only land in hand. Decides to pass back.
I don't think he has enough artifacts to make Opal.
I believe he drew a Mishra's Bauble, but he kept it in hand, most likely to save for Emery. Also in hand.
For Opal.
Oh, yeah.
Make Opal active. Floating blue playing Emery.
Yeah.
Okay, he just plays it.
Decides to expose the Mishra's Bauble, trying to draw into a land drop.
Right, you can't just sit waiting for another 0-man artifact come your way to be able to make Opal active. That isn't like reasonable at all. He just tries to get a land, and there he gets it, the Ursa Saga.
It's a bit awkward, of course, to play the Ursa Saga on turn 1, but simultaneously,
and there he gets another 0-man artifact. Maybe he should have kept the Mishra's Bauble. That's a really hard call to make, of course.
And the problem with cracking the Mishra's Bauble is wouldn't even have drawn the Lotus Petal. Would have looked at 1 less card, right? So he'd still be 1 turn behind. He's thinking about whether or not to play this Ursa Saga into the Wasteland. Mox Opal, Lotus Petal. I mean, this gets you the Emery if you want it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he just bounces them.
Yeah.
He like sacrificed Petal to play Emery, but she gets bounced straight away.
Yeah, with that Caracas.
Okay.
Exactly.
He lets it resolve. That's very interesting. Now he gets El Chalice.
Oh, that's one way to
my
do
friend. Is it on 1?
Yeah, he's casting it on 1 with the Lotus Petal and the Urza Saga. And Jonathan
No.
lets it go, yeah.
It's fair. So now he has shut off Plow. He has shut off Ending for 1.
Yeah, and that's one of the
Ending for 0, I guess.
Yeah, back in the day, blue control decks used to care a lot about Chalice on 1. They kind of care a little bit less because they now have access to that prismatic ending.
Yeah.
Can be cast at any ceiling. Hull Breacher making an appearance.
Really really damaging that 8 cast uh, plan of just casting Thought Cast and Thought Monitor.
Yeah.
And yeah, that just scoops it up for him.
Christoffer realizes the writing is on the wall here and packs them up to go to game 2.
I'm also gonna
Yeah. It is really a bit of a question whether you bring in Force Negation Flusterstorm and try to sort of fight Jonatan at his own game, or whether you sort of focus in on your own game plan. So it'll be interesting to see what path Christoffer chooses.
I feel as though it's easier to just let your deck run its course and just race it. I think that is the way you want to go with AK, but we'll see what he picks up.
Yeah, especially
He
since
mulligans the first one, and Jonatan seems to.
Yeah. One of the important things too is that a lot of Jonathan's most powerful creatures against the at accelerating his own game plan, but also attacking Christoffer, are creatures. Like there's Uro, there's Omnath, there's the Hull Breacher. Like all of these creatures are very good at attacking Christoffer, or are either very good at attacking Christoffer's game plan or doing the stuff that Jonatan wants to do in the matchup, which sort of generate card advantage and generally just sort of put a clock on Christoffer. And though none of those cards are answered by Force of Negation or Flusterstorm. So while Flusterstorm might be able to sort of might be able to force through a removal spell or win a counter war, Force of Negation sort of just too much, especially on your own turn. Seed of the Synod into Mox Opal. Love to see it. Here comes the Emery. Four cards go to the graveyard. One of them Emery, one of them Force of Will, one of them Lotus Petal, and fourth Force of Will.
It's fine. It's one hit for Emery, and that is all you can ask for.
Yeah, especially a sackable artifact.
Yeah. But yeah, you probably don't sack it, right? You probably want to play Outcast next turn. But
Yeah,
this is, of course, a very good hand. Being able to. Oh, that's. Being able to counter whatever he plays. He's probably gonna play spells pretty willy-nilly right now because he has seen 2 Force Wills in grave, while of course Christoffer is sitting on the third one.
Yeah, he knows that he can sort of force through his threats without worrying too much about counter magic. However, it is interesting that Christoffer does have a single copy of Force of Will in his hand. That'll come into play potentially. We see the prismatic ending on Mox Opal, solid.
That is probably a thing that you want to react to quickly.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Because now he probably knows that he has some sort of interaction, and that is quite significant information, of course.
Interesting. There's sort of the double bluff. I want to call it that, where you sort of pretend to have the counterspell. Like from Jonathan's perspective, it could be the case that like obviously Christoffer would bluff the counterspell, have it, especially in a match as important. So
yeah, that's true.
Interesting. Usually you wanna. Usually the straightforward answer is to just don't think about it at all and make the snap decision. But you want to be real mind magic about it, or if your opponent is really intricate. Ooh. So here comes the Petal. That's 3 artifacts. The Thought Cast costs 2. So right now he can cast Thought Cast by sacking a Lotus Petal.
Right, because he says that he wants to cast this. He activates the land and the mana ability of the Petal.
Yeah, exactly, because.
And then it's still reduced, right?
Wait. Oh, he can also do it like this. So he sacks the Petal, activates the Emery. Yeah. But yeah.
Can you actually do that? I'm unsure, because that's how the KZR deck works.
My understanding from playing a lot of Storm decks is that you say you want to cast a spell, then it checks what its cost is, and then you pay that cost. So yeah, I do think that is how it works.
Yeah.
You sort of check what the cost is, and then you pay that cost. So yeah, it would cost 2 mana even if you sack the low metal.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't have to worry about that anymore because now he does have 4 artifacts on the battlefield. It's 2 baubles, one old, one new, so to speak.
The Urza's Bubble is such a weird card. I really like it. I really like that card.
I keep waiting for the Modern Horizons Fire Design bauble. Look at the top card of each player's library, or look at the bottom card of each player's library.
You would play it if it's at 0. You would play it.
Yeah. Look at 2 cards for 0 mana.
Good. Good.
So, has another Urza's Bauble in hand. Does the Lotus Petal trick again, floating a blue. 5 artifacts now in play. Improvise. Ooh. Okay, cast Chalice. A little bit of a misstep there for sure to sort of tap your artifacts. I mean, technically it's a good bluff because all of the artifacts can tap. You're not technically like doing any games rules violations by sort of like thinking about tapping them and or are you? I don't know. I'm not gonna get into that, but
no, because if you are tapping it for improvise, it's the same thing as tapping a land for mana. You can always untap it before.
Yeah, exactly.
You can always undo a mana action like that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Of course you can undo improvise. I was just wondering. Pretty sure you can't undo like an Urza's Ball, so it's probably pretty clear that it was a decision on whether to cast the Kappa Can. But the Chalice of the Void, for one, did resolve. It's sort of a question now of how Jonathan, of whether or not Jonathan has an answer. Block stuff, towards the Plowshare. He does have a Hull Breacher here, which is pretty good considering Christoffer has activated the bubble. So Jonathan will for sure get a single treasure, unless Christoffer has something like some kind of answer to the Hull Breacher. He could, for example, try and counter it here. From there, the question is, Jonathan have a counterspell himself? So Christoffer goes for the Force of Will and gets it. So at least doesn't have to worry about Hull Breacher, but here comes Pyroblast countered by the Chalice. Not sure whether that was intentional or not, but regardless, the Emery will be sticking around for a while, it seems. There is a Supreme Verdict in hand. It could potentially sweep up Emery on a future turn. I believe Mishra's Bauble or Urza's Bauble just revealed the same land again.
That doesn't really like help a whole lot in Christopher's situation. Of course, you want to get as much information as possible when playing against a control player. It makes playing into their threats a hell of a lot less scary.
And we get a Misty Rainforest. No, a Snapcaster Mage is revealed. The Misty Rainforest did not come out. For this Urza. But yeah, interesting that Jonatan does have access to that Snapcaster Mage. So as soon as he unlocks himself from Chalice of the Void, does have a lot of action. But between a Pyroblast in the yard and a Brainstorm, there's a lot of stuff that just is not working under this Chalice. And he really needs to find something like a Prismatic Ending, Energy Flux, Meltdown, really anything that sort of answers Christoffer's Chalice of the Void. And of course, flashbacking Prismatic Ending is a way to do that. But here is the Flusterstorm. So it feels like the Flusterstorms are not that nice when you're behind, but they're pretty powerful when you're the one setting the agenda and your opponent is trying to answer you.
He decides to play a versus bauble.
I really
looks at his hand. He's snappy.
He really has a preference for specifically Urza's Bauble. Here he actually got to combine the two for the maximum. Drew a Force of Will, and I believe he has another Flusterstorm in hand as well. So there are a lot of answers sitting in Christoffer's hand as he generates more and more card advantage. Really is what 8-cast is built to do. But Supreme Verdict will not be answered by any such counterspell. Now Christoffer is starting out with the Thoughtcast for 1.
Yep.
Draws into another Thoughtcast. Has an Ancient Tomb and a basic island. For the Thoughtcast.
Now we got another Saga. That way.
Yeah, if you want to go fast, I feel like that's what you do. Like the Saga, sack the pedal for your construct. But at the same time, keeping the pedal makes your construct bigger.
Although now we can still make the construct from the Ancient Tomb, of course.
Yep. Both players at high life totals. As Dak Faden back. Christoffer, a Force of Negation thing. Iron of Flusterstorm and a Force of Will. Decides to pitch Flusterstorm. Interesting, of course. You want to keep that Force of Will, I suppose, for Jonatan finds Great Creature, for example.
I think it's because he knows that he won't be that high on blue mana, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Here I made the construct, he makes another construct. Looks like that way at least.
Yeah, he's really going to be tapping out
a
lot here. Goes to 13 off 2 activations of Ancient. Making really big constructs. Right now there are 5/5s, and he's going to get another artifact.
He gets an opal.
Yep.
That's not a source of blue mana that we talked about earlier. The question is now that maybe he wanted a Flusterstorm anyways, but maybe he was too scared of what that single mana could do. It could be a plow.
It's also the fact that you can't counter creature spells. So Omnath, Burrow, and similar are hard to answer. As well as the fact that.
Wait, what? Isn't Force of Will a hard counter?
Force of Will is a hard counter, but Flusterstorm just counters instants.
Yeah,
and
but you said Force of Will.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I got it mixed up. Also, under a chalice, the first copy.
Okay, so after you attack, he passes his turn, and Jonathan seems to just pass back.
Yeah, there's a lot of ones that I can see in that hand. There seems to be a singular Snapcast as well. In front of 2 Brainstorm.
Snappy. What does he get back? Is question. Does he want to counter it? Maybe. He does.
It is a lethal attack.
Want to counter it.
Hard cast. We'll go to left.
Ooh.
And the chalice check.
And we're off to game 3.
Yeah.
And Christoffer with a Seat of Scion into a pedal and a active Mox Opal. And the Falcast. Drawing 2.
Yeah, that's where you want to be. Turn 1, Falcast.
I remember when Mox Opal was legal modern. Those good times. It was a really nice modern card. It is sad that it's banned. It makes artifact decks a bit too good, I guess, but I liked it. I liked it in modern actually.
But you also liked artifact quite a bit. You used to be an affinity player, right?
I used to play affinity.
Before you devolved into a Dredge Maniac.
Yeah, I played actually affinity without the Mox Opal, and then when I started playing land control, I bought opals. And of course, I would have played opals in my current skill deck. Yeah, it obviously serves a purpose in Legacy as well.
Yeah, here
you
it
also
is.
see all the value that he gets from it, like casting a thought cast and getting all those cards.
Yeah, and it very much it isn't alone in Legacy. It stands alongside a series of other Moxen, but it really is great at doing its thing. Like
yeah, totally.
It's the one of the Moxen that really sort of has the least in terms of investment, and here it is just really powerful. Like simultaneously an artifact and a mana rock, serving a lot of different purposes. With the one downside being the fact that it's legendary.
Oh.
I would say. So sometimes it is just a lotus petal when you draw multiples, but even then it's still pretty solid.
Yeah.
And here it's sort of just Jonathan needs to find some kind of answer to everything that's going on, and Christoffer has only cast 2 copies of Thoughtcast and played some lands. But already there are constructs on the way, and yeah. So Teferi trying to head on down to the battlefield, capable of bouncing most of Christoffer's lands. So we'll see how Christoffer on. Force of Negation, pitching Brazen Borrower. Force of Will, pitching Snapcaster. Flusterstorm. So, for answers that Teferi, very important to answer. matchup. Mainly because it sort of bounces back the Ursus Saga, sort of takes a lot of pressure off of Jonatan, which gives him room to breathe. Clear that Christoffer way more interested in getting this game. Ursus Saga tokens, a lot of pressure. Jonatan casting upkeep Hull Breacher to get at that bauble draw.
Thing is, like, absolutely the Hull Breacher is a very good card against 8 cast, but it's kind of too late. I feel as though once tokens start hitting the battlefield, it's kind of too late to try and control him out. You have to have concrete answers to the tokens, and he doesn't really have that right now. Unless because he's played a land, right?
I mean, Jonatan hasn't even drawn a card for turn.
Oh, okay.
It's all happening in the upkeep.
Never mind. But yeah, we can see that he has 2 lands, and that does nothing against tokens. Like, I think that there is a beatdown plan going on here, and that Jonatan might lose out on it.
So Jonatan has sort of constricted Christoffer's resources, which is good because that way he doesn't draw into like a million counter spells like we saw last game. But it really is up to Jonatan to find one of his silver bullets in order to try and answer what's going on. Interesting, of course, Jonatan did not crack his Flooded Strand, so Christoffer is probably eyeing that Pithing Needle, considering that if he grabs it, he can immediately name Flooded Strand.
No, look at Jonathan's face. He's so bummed right now.
Yeah, if you're viewing it from Jonathan's perspective, you're kind of a little bit happy. Like there are other artifacts that are also pretty good. Mishra's Bauble is shut down. Actually, never mind.
And here comes the Spectator, helping them out with the Pithing Needle naming. So we can see the exact naming, but obviously he named the Flooded Strand.
Most likely, unless he's doing something like naming Teferi or I believe there's a 1-of Jace, but I'm not sure Christoffer knows that. We'll see. But yeah, if you do grab,
and there's the cap as well. Like I feel as though this is quite over. What does it say? Flooded Strand. No, it doesn't say that.
Fairy Time Raveler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
The big thing
is. It taps out. Here comes the Kappa.
So.
Oh, Kappa.
There. Yeah, Fairy Time Raveler. There is actually one card Jonatan could draw here that makes a big difference.
Green?
Called Energy Flux.
Oh, right, yeah. Totally.
It gets around Ward, taxing all of his artifacts.
He should fetch before, so it has a higher chance of drawing.
Yeah, I think he's considering it here in the upkeep.
It is pretty... Yeah. And that's probably all he has to do right now. He has to draw some sort of answer, either if it's a Supreme Verdict or a Flux. I don't know if he cited out the Supreme.
I believe he might have one.
Here we can see all the cards. Okay, yes.
So he has Energy Flux. He has that singleton copy of Meltdown, although it doesn't answer the Kappa Cannoneer.
No, exactly.
So
We'll see.
The Supreme Verdict, of course, cleans up all of the creatures, which buys Jonatan time, but in the process also gets rid of the Hull Breacher.
Yeah, of course.
So it's suboptimal.
Life alone, that's game, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Unless he can turn this now. Yeah.
That's a good game.
We are now here with Christoffer, our champion of the Legacy 10K. How does it feel?
It feels really good. I've played a bunch of these now, and I've placed somewhat well in a lot of them, but finally I got the trophy and it feels amazing.
And how does it feel to do it? How has it been to do it on 8cast? Drawing a lot of cards, casting a lot of spells?
It also felt really good because I am not a Legacy player,
Mm-hmm.
and I've played Legacy 3 times in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And the other 2 times I borrowed an elf deck from my friend. So this is the first time with the deck, and it felt really good, kind of fun to play, and it performed really well today. So
Yeah.
it felt.
How come you chose to play 8cast today?
Actually, the boring answer is I'm not that interested to play a lot of Legacy, but I want to have a Legacy deck that I'm playing with, and this was the cheapest one that feels good.
Yeah, a lot of Ursa Sagas in place.
And I already owned Ursa Saga and the Chalice of the Void, and so this was the easiest deck to acquire that was still very powerful.
You were casting a lot of artifacts, doing a lot of like stuff, keeping track of a lot of Mishra's Bauble and Ursa's Bauble triggers. Was it tiresome? Did you like?
I didn't feel so today. I felt well rested, well hydrated, and so I never had a problem with it today, at least.
Hmm?
That felt also probably a reason that it went so well.
Yeah. We noticed also that you took a lot of aggressive lines, especially when you had a counterspell to back up what you were doing. Like it was a lot of like Jonatan would try to take control of the board, and you would sort of answer that. Did you always play in sort of an aggressive way to try and get the game over with as quickly as possible, or?
No, it was a bit different today. It depends a bit of what's the matchup, what kind of how powerful hate cards do I expect to face, like how much time can I spare, not trying to overdevelop into a verdict or a meltdown, or but this last game it felt like he didn't really have a lot, and I just had to. I want to kill you before you draw your supreme verdict, pretty much, and it. This time it worked. Other times, like if I get verdicted there on the last turn in the last game, I'm probably out. But now he only has 1 draw step instead of 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And how many cards would you say that you've drawn with your Emeries on average?
On average, a lot less than in game 2. On average, maybe the Emery has drawn like. Actually, I haven't played a lot of Emerys today at all. She has almost played more Kappas today than Baubles, but so very few actually. But game 2 was incredible. She drew like 5 or 6 cards or something, and it was very good.
Do you have any message for all the players out there? I know there were some fans from Bros that hopefully are still in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you very much I have seen the messages in Discord as well from the guys in Borås that's watching. So thank you very much for the supports and the watchers, and for everyone else that's not from my hometown, then thank you so much for watching. And if you want to play Legacy, this is a great deck to start. It's cheap and it's really powerful.
Great. Thank you, Christoffer,
Thank
our Legacy 10K champion. And with that, we leave you.
Thank you.
Thank you.